What's coming up after blogs? What are we doing after blogs rather than just being simply stuck on writing blogs that don't seem to be getting anywhere, delivering all the wrong kind of traffic, and then we're wondering if it's even worth our time? Well, it kind of isn't. And that's because search has changed quite significantly in the last 2 years. So let's get started and take a look. Now, our bit of a roadmap we're going to take towards what is called answer engine optimization or generative engine optimization or just AI SEO, because we need more acronyms and need more jargon. It's all about, why blogs are failing and what this GEO means. We're looking at a bit of a strategy, creating these answer pages for what we call long tail AI queries. That'll make a lot more sense soon. We'll look at the trust signal, why LinkedIn is a really good partner in this as well. And we're going to take a look at actually starting to build this out and what it looks like. So let's get going and see what we can come up with. First up, the problem is that people are no longer necessarily searching for keywords in Google as much as they were before. They're using voice search. Finally, we're using voice search to input much longer queries. So instead of typing in marketing agency Sydney, we're going, hey, find me a marketing agency in Sydney that specializes in dental practices that uses HubSpot, or find me a plumber that also does gas fitting in the Nightcliff area of the Darwin region, and also that they are, sustainability oriented or something like that. Lots of really, really much more complex terms that have a lot more pieces to them rather than just simply looking for this thing. We're now adding context. We're now adding our personal preferences. And we're not just doing it in Google, even though that still has by far the biggest lot of search going to it. We're now using the AI tools, ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, those kind of tools. So they search things and find things and cite things a little bit differently than what the regular tools do, like Google. That's because they use a thing called generative engine optimization. And no one's actually calling it this, but it's kind of like a catch-all phrase for it. Because the goal is no longer about becoming necessarily just number one on Google. It's about being the citation that these AI models are referencing to give you the information and responses, as well as trusting enough that you are the right answer for that. This generative engine optimization, it focuses less on trickery and focuses more on becoming an authoritative source that AI models can cite when they're answering very specific questions that people are asking. And the opportunity for this is very short. So those of us who really master these sort of answer pages that we're going to be looking at creating tend to be the ones who will get in there first before everybody starts understanding what's going on and optimizing themselves. So if you can be one of the first in your area, one of the first in your industry to do this, this would be fantastic. This is something which does gear itself better for those who are looking to work with those in their own area, as Google does, right? You're up against 50 people instead of up against 500,000. It does make a difference. The difference here is, though, you can get really specific about the very niche you're looking for. So instead of saying, I'm a coach looking to work with women, you can say, I'm a coach looking for women that is trauma informed. And those women are looking for very specific business growth opportunities and making themselves more visible online. That's the kind of stuff you're looking for, because that's the kind of thing that people are searching for, not just looking for, oh, I'm looking for a coach. They're looking for someone to deliver very specific outcomes for them. And they're including that in their searches as well. The answer page is a very highly specific landing page on your website. It's not a blog. It's a targeted page that directly answers those very long, complex queries that models are breaking down into lots and lots of sub questions. There is what we call a query fan out mechanic. So when users ask really complex questions, the AI then takes that complex question and breaks it into sub questions. So if we take that, I'm looking for a coach who works with women, we're asking, okay, I'm looking for a coach who works for women. And then it goes, first of all, that's the query we're looking for. Then we're also looking for, I'm looking for a coach who works for women achieve business outcomes. Business outcomes. That's another sub query. I'm looking for a woman, a coach who works with women to deliver specific outcomes, who is also trauma informed. There we go. All works in sustainability. That's another sub. And then we get these very specific answers back from your query in AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, or Google's Gemini, or Google's generative answers. But it's very, very much about finding that source that answers those very specific queries. Because you probably notice you can break your queries into AI up to very much more different follow-up questions. It's not just find me this, find me a web designer on the Sunshine Coast. It's saying, well, find me on this website on the Sunshine Coast. It brings up a list. And you're like, ugh. One who works with purpose-led businesses. Great. That sort of narrows it down. One who works with purpose-led businesses and happens to live in the hinterland. Great. Okay, that breaks it down. Or has worked with agricultural businesses. There we go. So that's the kind of stuff we need to include in there. Now, this is not a page which is your website, because we've all gone to a great deal of making our websites look right for our businesses, for our brands, for our purposes, right? This is the front end that most people will ever see. This is a page that can inherit all that look and that feel and all the things that link around it. But you don't necessarily need to link this page through a menu on your website. It doesn't have to be linked through that way. It's designed for a very, very specific set of questions that will be asked. And how often will those set of questions be asked? Maybe once a month, but they're so unique and so specific that if they find an authoritative answer within any of the tools, including Google, for that very specific search, that particular inquiry coming through is highly motivated to work with you because you answer 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10 of the requirements they had before they even had to ask you whether you fulfill those requirements. So where the user might say, best accounting software for a small vegan cafe in Melbourne, we need our answer page to say Paulson accounting integrations for Australian hospitality businesses. But we can go further and have another page which is almost the same kind of stuff, saying, well, POS and accounting integrations for purpose-led businesses, vegan businesses, Melbourne businesses. But we can stretch that out a bit further because if you are serving people in multiple places outside of where you live, then what you're trying to do is trying to get into those niche questions that people are asking that match you: purpose-led, not-for-profit, vegan, all those very specific questions that will be asked where it's important for someone to work with someone like that. Or it could be something like, someone who is trans friendly, or working with people who are with the neurodiverse. Those are really important things. So you have to include in your qualities and your we call them principles of your business. What are the things that you work with? Who are the people you work with? And get really specific. I'm not looking for your avatar here. I'm looking for, how do you work with the neurodiverse? How do you work with a vegan? How do you work with, and then you really think that out and show that you really do that. And then you include content on your website that then references those very specific things. And that's how we build an answer page. Doesn't have to be linked through to the rest of your website. It's not a blog. What it is a very specific landing page made very specifically for that query. It doesn't deposition your other landing pages or your home pages. They're all very brand oriented, very much about people who are going to land there and say, oh, look, at first look, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with her. This is about people who are looking for, not you specifically, but someone who is just like you, and they have very specific requirements. This answers those requirements for you. So the anatomy of a high converting answer page is really, H1 title as you normally would have at any sort of structure of a website. And then we have this bottom line up front, which is you directly answer the question that was asked in the first paragraph. We're not looking to go all the way to the bottom. We're not trying to get dwell time here. AI does not care about dwell time on your website or how much time is spent on it. It doesn't care. It cares about, is this the best possible source of information that answers all the requirements that the person put in? So the H1 title matches that question that was asked. It's almost like a question. Then we take the most important bit and we put it in that first paragraph, because that's what AI loves. It loves this for generating its snippets and the citations that it then slices into its responses. And then we have things like structured data. And this has been important in Google for like at least 5 years, right? Tables, bullet points, pricing grids. AI loves code, and it does not really struggle with it the same way that Google used to. It doesn't care about the fact that you've got structured data and bullet points and tables and all that sort of thing. It actually really likes that. In fact, it deals with that better than what it deals with flowery language. It really, really helps with that. So you can have, for instance, instead of a paragraph written so beautifully and professionally by a copywriter that explains your principles and your ways of working, or you could just list those principles and ways of working as a set of data points and bullet points in a table, and it will pick that up even more efficiently, and then have a clear call to action. That's the same with any page anywhere. I don't really feel like we need to have too many of those, because usually, you've got a contact page there anyway, and you've got all sorts of buttons linking through to contact me and call me and book a call with me, all that sort of thing. So include one there so it's obvious, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the final thing at the bottom of the page where everything gets lost. Now, LinkedIn is this other thing, because what we're seeing now is that LinkedIn and places like Reddit are becoming increasingly authoritative when it comes to linking through to things. So AI models heavily prioritize LinkedIn because it's regarded as a very high trust environment, because real people actually verify their identities there. So I've got a verified account. It doesn't mean I've paid for it. It means what I've done, I've verified through my driver's license that I am a real person using that account. Now, is it a privacy thing for me? No, I don't care about that. It's a driver's license. What I care about is that LinkedIn sees me as being who I say I am. And it has absolutely helped me to get much more authority on that platform. But one thing that people don't also realize is that your posts on LinkedIn, unless you say otherwise, are searchable via AI and Google, more so this year than I've seen in other years. Very specifically, though, if you write articles, and they call it LinkedIn Pulse, but it's an article in LinkedIn instead of just a plain post, those articles will work the same way, say, a blog or a landing page would. So that all that information that's in there then becomes part of your footprint of authority and credibility, not just your website, but also on LinkedIn. So what you might do is say, well, okay, well, if I've got to produce maybe a post or two a week on LinkedIn, I might as well make it something that's highly optimized for me to be found via these AI search engines. And this is where you're going, okay, well, I do the same thing on my landing page as what I'll do on LinkedIn. No, you do different things. It doesn't matter where it finds you, as long as it cites you. Because what you want is that citation coming up there, and the citations are listed in these search results, so that someone actually wants to go forward and do something with you. They click on the citation the same way they click on a link in a list of links on Google, and they're off to your website, to the source where they got that from, to an optimized landing page or an optimized article on LinkedIn that's made for people to come through and follow you, find you, inquire with you, all that sort of thing. LinkedIn is now the second most cited website for AI search results after Reddit. So it's Reddit. That's usually for very much quick answers, not really linking through to service providers, more to linking through to a solution for something. How do I bang a nail in with a hammer without hitting my finger? That kind of question, rather than I'm looking for a marketing person for this, or I'm looking for a yoga studio that does that in this area and uses hot yoga, or those very specific things, right? So the LinkedIn authority loop is really about publishing a LinkedIn article, not just a post, although posts will be cited. Then link your post through to your answer page. So you can embed a link to in your article to that detailed answer page, and it won't be poorly treated on LinkedIn, because after all, this LinkedIn post or this LinkedIn article, we're not doing this to be visible on LinkedIn. We're doing this to be visible on AI search. Very different strategy than a social media marketing strategy. So we don't really care if anyone sees this on LinkedIn. It's just got to be there. Then AI follows through a trust trail. It will see an answer on LinkedIn in your article and goes, okay, it looks at the citation, goes to the landing page, gets that data, brings all that together in less than a second, and returns an answer to somebody, pushing through to that LinkedIn article, and perhaps even then following the trail through to your answer page that you've got on your website as well, which has obvious SEO benefits as well, because your domain is now seen as having a higher authority. So what we're going to do is start to build this process out. And I've built a couple of things for you. I've built a guide that you can use after this. You can get hold of that through a QR code, which will come up shortly. And also we've got another one, which is a Gemini gem, which if you've ever used ChatGPT, you might know of custom GPTs or projects. Well, this is the equivalent in Google's Gemini. I use them because they've got a much better usage allowance for people who have free accounts. So you don't have to keep going paying for everything. I know that when I try to do this through ChatGPT, people run out of use of it in a couple of questions because it's a very complex process with lots of inputs and outputs. But Gemini is a lot more good with that. So I'm just going to bring it out there. We'll get to look at that soon. This is in Gemini, so very similar to ChatGPT. I'm going to go to gems here. And in my gems, I've got this one I've designed, the writing web content for AI search. So let's have a look at that. I'll open it up. It's going to give me a new chat window. And what I need to do here, and this is really important, you don't just type anything, just type start, because I've built a sequence in here. That sequence is going to ask a series of questions about your business and about where you're located, all that kind of thing to help it to form the H1 heading for you, then the opening paragraph, then the rest of it. So in here, we're going step one. What we're looking for is the search term that you want to be found for and your brand name. So let's go. The search term I want to be found for is public speaking training in Darwin, Northern Territory. Great. Okay. And the brand I didn't put in there, but it's called Speak Starter. So I should probably enter that too. Let's see if it's got it. It's going to analyze that search query. Let's see what it finds. Okay. To execute, and there's the brand name. So it's prompted me for this. Great. So Speak Starter is the brand name. I've now put that in. So we're starting to see that this is going through a set that I've a whole sequence that I've built in here, and I'm going to share this gem with you so you can use it yourself. So it's telling, okay, we're positioning SpeakStarter as the definitive authority for this in this location. Now we're going to do the citable H1 optimization. So here's the H1. It's gone public speaking training in Darwin, Northern Territory. Pretty easy, right? Then the immediate follow-up paragraph it's got for Premier Public Speaking Training. It's a leading provider. We offer specialized workshops and individual coaching. Great. Okay. So it's picked all that. I'm pretty happy with that. It's also picked that up from my website, which says almost very, very similar words. It's saying you need to copy the above text exactly. Now, I might want to tweak some of that. I wouldn't use the word Premier for professional public speaking training in Darwin. That's what I'll put in there. So I go, okay, let's pretend I've done that. I've put that in my page on my website. Done. Now it's going to give me the next step. The next step is going to be something pretty similar to this. So it's going to ask you for a little bit more information. In this case, step 3 is all about freshness. It's saying, have you put some kind of timestamp? So if you're using WordPress or Joomla or even Wix or Squarespace, what you could do is change the publishing date or the last updated tape, or you can just put it in there. You can put this line in there, last updated 20th of January, 2026. Wherever you want within there. What we're aiming for is to stay within this 10-month window. What is happening is 95% of ChatGPT citations, they source content that is less than 10 months old. So we need to keep that fresh. So you might have some other routine. What I would normally do, I put this into my calendar to remind me in 6 months to update that article. And so it updates a few bits and pieces in, just some words here and there that are not going to cause any major problems. And then I'll change this line to the new date that it's been updated. It's just picked up today's date because that's when we're doing it. So I'm going to say confirm that I've done this. Yeah, done. I've confirmed it. I've gone and put that into there already. Now it's going to start working either with the stories I'm going to tell it, or it's going to have a little bit more information in there that it can just generate and then leave gaps where I need to add something. Because what it's saying is that your content can be up to 86.5%, well, yeah, about 90 to 10. So you can 90% generate your own stuff in AI, but you need about 10% of it that's going to be just from you. So what we can do, we can type generate base and it'll create 90% AI foundation for it. And then it'll leave us gaps to inject with the 10% of the human insight. Or I can have the current stuff I've already made myself and written myself and pasted in here, and it will insert that into it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to generate base simply because I want you to see what that looks like. So it's going to generate the base. It's going to produce 90% of the page content. And then I'm going to feel it's going to show me where I can insert my 10%. So this is actually probably the quickest way to do it. So why choose Speak, Stutter in Darwin? It's got all this training modules. Great. It's already got all that. Who should attend? Great. Okay. Now the 10% human injection. It's solid but generic. It wants me to add a local anecdote, some proprietary data, so I can add in, 98% of Darwin grad just receive a promotion. Some kind of testimonial would be helpful in there too, or a contrarian opinion. I can say why we don't believe you should ever imagine the audience naked and how it's the worst advice ever, which is contrarian according to very common kind of public speaking advice that people would give. So what we can do is go, okay, I want to add a local anecdote. So local anecdote, I'm just going to make one up on the spot. I trained a young man in confidence to speak very specific things like assignments at school that required a verbal delivery. We also worked on making it easier for him to speak in public situations that he was, as a prefect, getting asked to do more often. So that's my story to it that adds a little bit of, and it's a real story of a real 14-year-old I trained last year. There we go. So we add that in. That's a bit of a local anecdote I'm going to add in there. So it'll then add that into the rest of that article. So it's going to create that 10%. So it'll make sure that out of the whole 100% of that is going to put enough in there to achieve that 10% thing. So public speaking started at top fear. We don't just teach from a textbook. We solve real confidence skills, for example. There you go. And it's put in Darwin High School prefect. Whether you're a student leader, it's added in manager in Palmerston. It's added in more stuff. So what we then do is go, okay, step 5, the search everywhere distribution is saying, look, you need to also maybe repurpose this content somewhere else, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, or Google Maps, or a good Google business profile, something like that. It's giving you those. So what I might do is repurpose it for a LinkedIn text only post or article. And now we'll start that process as well. So it's giving you the little hints along the way. And I'm going to give you the link to this. So don't worry, you're going to be able to use this yourself. And if you find that you keep running out and you want to insert it into your own ChatGPT, I can probably somehow break it down and make it so you can use it in your own ChatGPT account if you wish to, or in your own Google Gemini account. So now it's got headline: public speaking isn't just for CEOs, and it's begun writing what that article or post would look like. So it's just done a post. I could say, can make it bigger, but that's probably enough, because it's also inserted, working with a young prefect. We didn't turn to confident. We used breath control, which we actually did. Micro delivery structures, actually, we did that as well. And repetition, we did as well in a safe environment. So that's exactly the process we used. So it wasn't particularly all that different. It was just something that really worked for him. He's now handling school assemblies, which is true, and public duties. So absolutely true, because it's based that more than 10%, really, because it's actually, put way more than 10% into that LinkedIn post. So I've got something which is just not repeating the same story in 2 different places, but it's completely reformatting the way it's saying that. One for a LinkedIn post, one for my landing page, or for my long tail result answer page on my website. So that's basically how we build it out. Now, what I'll do is you can grab that. This is going to be on a little bit later today. I'm going to put this onto YouTube, to the Darwin Innovation Hub, and my own channel too, under Dante St. James, or the Darwin Innovation Hub. It'll be on there later today, so you'll be able to see that. So you can just use your phone to grab that. I'll also be a little later on sending you these slides as well, so you can get them from that as too. But the second thing I want to show you, once you've got that, is a free SEO guide. So before you start snapping that one, this is what it looks like basically. So we can run a simulation of what AI would do if we were searching for best marketing agencies, and single grain marketing will come up every time, which means it can be controllable. It'll take you through the steps we've learned today about the freshness aspect, through to, the myths, all those sort of things, and, where we can look at, the search engines, the other places we can search on, including socials, LinkedIn, as we said before, and then some other places you can find. So it gives you the same thing we talked about today and a few little extra tools you may want to go and look at if they've got some free versions for you to play with. And then it gives you a quiz as well. So you can, the 10% is 95%, I think it was. Does Google punish AI generated content? No, as long as it's useful. Which search engine currently provides more data? That'd be Google. And what is the recommended human AI ratio? Remember, it was 90% AI, 10% AI. There we go. And it completed the quiz. So we can retake that so you can practice what those skills are. That is this this AI, this QR code here. So if you can quickly get that, and that will get you through to that AI guide. Now, I'm sending you through all these. If you've registered for this through Eventbrite, you will receive this through email a little bit later today. And it will be also available on YouTube through my channel, Dante St. James, or through the Darwin Innovation Hub channel, Darwin Innovation Hub. Just search that on YouTube. You'll see our channel there with lots of different webinars that I've run before.